Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. A city program that helps renters afford housing is over budget, and the situation is looking bleak for next year. Plus, we check in with local school boards about how the cell phone ban at school is going, and an update on the little bear that was transported from Northern Ontario to Windsor. He now has a name, one you might like. There's a city program that helps renters secure or keep affordable housing, but the rental market is at the point where the program is over budget and staff warn they'll need even more money next year. The CBC's Chris Ensing with the details.
Are you scrolling through rental listings right now trying to find a place to live? Good luck. Windsor has a low vacancy rate and high demand. The rents are also on the rise. I'm Chris Ensing. I cover City Hall, and the city may have a program that could help you out. It pays for first and last month's rent and can also help pay back rent if you're facing an eviction.
I think everybody is feeling it, even people who are fortunate enough to have full-time, good-paying jobs. They're feeling the pinch of the growing cost of living.
That's Jennifer Tanner. She's the city's manager of homelessness and housing support. She also oversees the Emergency Rent Assistance Program.
It's really folks that would be struggling to get through a housing crisis without this one-time support. On average, we're paying about $2,000 per eligible household.
That's more than twice what they were paying out 2 years ago, back when the total budget was just over $500,000. The program's budget has ballooned, driven by higher rental rates and more people facing evictions. This year, staff is projecting a $2.3 million budget, or a 300% increase.
We're seeing across Windsor and Essex County and across the country, actually, rental costs are going up exponentially, as is the cost of living for other basic needs.
This fund has helped close to 2,000 unique households in the last 2 years.
It's folks that are facing a housing crisis. Maybe they've lost a job or had a reduction in their hours of work, and they haven't been able to keep up on their rent payments.
So what happens next? Staff has told council that they need more money and will likely need to increase the budget again in 2025.
I am fiercely protective of this program because it is a homelessness prevention program. And it's so important that we make these investments now to prevent trauma on families and individuals, and also higher costs for other services. If individuals have to enter an emergency shelter, that costs about $23,000 per year per bed, as opposed to the $2,000 a month we would pay under this rent assistance program. This is a very cost-effective homelessness prevention program.
To find out if you qualify, head to the city's website.
We're 1 week under Ontario's new rules restricting students' cell phone use in classrooms. Dawson Chen brings us more about how Windsor-Essex schools are dealing with the policy.
I think it's semi-unnecessary.
I don't think it's a good idea.
I think it's good for learning and the well-being of the students.
Those are some of the responses of Windsor-Essex students to the province's so-called crackdown on distractions in classrooms. The new provincial rules dictate that students from kindergarten to grade 6 must keep their cell phones silent and out of sight for the entirety of the school day. Students grades 7 to 12 can use their cell phones during the day, but not during class time. Representatives of the region's public and Catholic English school boards say they already had similar policies in place.
It wasn't a major change for us. We had actually embarked on that change some time ago when we really wanted to address just the amount of distractions that were happening in classrooms from mobile devices.
Once we got that directive from the Ministry of Education, it was just a case of realigning those policies and make sure that they were consistent with what the ministry was saying. So I would suggest that our students, for the most part, were already fairly used to not having their cell phones available in the classroom.
At either school board, enforcement of the rules doesn't involve confiscation of devices. Persistent noncompliance will result in a trip to the principal's office and a communication with parents. Meanwhile, in accordance with provincial policy, both school boards say they're blocking the major social media platforms on school Wi-Fi networks. Students I spoke with expressed a mixture of skepticism and optimism.
I think it helps students focus a little more on what the teacher's teaching, but I also think that sometimes during classwork, students focus more with music in the back. Sometimes music just helps you relax while you're doing your work.
I feel like students should have their phones for when they need parent help, because sometimes the parents don't have time to contact the school to get in contact with their kid. I use it when I'm doing my work, and that's about it. I don't really be on it too much. I mean, I'm really on my phone. My screen time's maybe 3 hours a day, if people consider that a lot.
Everyone's been pretty respectful with it because this school is really known for being respectful. I know it's for my well-being and my studies, so I accept it with open arms.
Ontario's new tough policy on cell phones in classrooms is happening at the same time as a new province-wide vaping ban at all schools. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
The Ontario Ombudsman is opening an investigation into concerns about child welfare agencies housing children and teens in hotels, motels, offices, and even trailers. As it stands now, one local child is being cared for in the Windsor Essex Children Aid Society building, and 2 children are at a hotel. The executive director of the local Children's Aid Society says the Ombudsman investigation is positive, but wants to find a solution to the problem. He was on Windsor Morning earlier today.
It's not a practice for the Children's Aid Society to place children in unlicensed placement. We loathe to do that. And so when we have circumstances where children with complex needs can't get what they need in the community because the government hasn't invested in the way that it should, and we don't have available placements for them in the system, the Children's Aid is scrambling like a parent would to say, what can we do to find the right support and services for our child or youth that we're caring for? So if we had the opportunity to put all the players together and find solutions to this problem, I think we'd be further ahead than a narrow scope of an investigation that looks at our quote-unquote practices.
CBC News has learned the name of the man who was shot and killed by Windsor police as Jason West. The 57-year-old died after being shot in front of the beer store on Friday morning. Today, a small memorial has been set up to honor him. Stones, flowers, a feather, and tobacco sit in the area where the incident happened. Stephen Mull, who goes by Shaman Stirs the Fire, says he set up the memorial to honor his Indigenous friend. The events leading to West's death started Friday around 10:30 in the morning when police got a call for a disturbance. Ontario Special Investigations Unit says 2 knives were involved. There was an interaction between West and police. Then the SIU says 2 officers fired their weapons. West was pronounced dead in hospital. The SIU is investigating the circumstances of the shooting. For Mull, he's lost someone who he became close to over a short period of time. The 2 bonded over their Indigenous cultures, and Mull says West referred to him as an uncle. He also says they both lived with the impacts of the 60s scoop, being removed from their Indigenous homes and adopted into non-Indigenous families.
He stole us as part of assimilation, and I think that has a lot to do with what went on recently, because when they steal your identity, it's kind of hard to find yourself, and he struggled like everyone else. I felt so sad, because it's like losing your best friend, because he referred to me, because even though he was a couple years younger, he always referred to me as uncle, and that's a sign of respect. That's a sign of being family, not just that we're different nations, it's just we're the same people.
If you notice some unique banners on Wyandotte Street, they're there to honor local veterans. They showcase the name and photograph of 42 veterans with ties to Windsor. The tribute will stay up until late November.
Well, we can't forget those men and women that went off and not went to war necessarily, but those who went and served. Want to make sure that they're remembered. They went and it's kind of cliche, but they went and signed a blank check, up and including their life for for Canada. So it's the least we could do is at least put a banner up to make sure we're going to remember them from time to come. We have 40 that are in the air right now. The families, when they first see the banner goes up for the first time and the look on their face, you can't quantify that.
Today, 255 has stepped up, and Andrew's picture is right outside the Legion branch.
Corporal Andrew Grenon, Afghanistan, 2 PPCLI killed in action.
I found out Sunday that Andrew was up front. And all the memoriams in Windsor, everything that you pass that signifies a veteran, it is double folded. I am so happy that it's there, and I am so sad that it's there. It's hard to grasp, because the memory of my son is not dying. It means the world to me.
Colette, I have missed you, and I've been looking forward to the weather forecast all day to say hello.
I love it. I've missed you too, Meg, and I'm really happy to be here. And let me give you that forecast, all right? Especially when it's a really nice one. It's my pleasure then to let you know what's coming up over the next few days. Obviously, today turned into a pretty nice day, and we're still holding with some lovely temperatures, considering we're getting towards mid-September. 24 degrees currently, Chatham-Kent at 21 and 23 there for Sarnia. As you can see, all these numbers 20 or above. A little bit of humidity, and we're going to find this over the next few days. Some humidity in there. Now, it's not like what you experience when you're in the middle of summer, okay? We're not talking about oppressive humidex values where it starts to feel like we're at around 40 or that kind of thing. But you know, it is a little bit higher for this time of the year as we're approaching fall. Now, the winds have been relatively light, and in fact, not much to speak of there. And some of those lighter winds from last night had an impact on some of our weather. We don't have anything as well in our, not only short term, but in our future here in terms of some dry conditions. But just a closer look, and speaking about last night, there were several hours through the overnight where we had either the mist or some fog because the winds were light and not really mixing the atmosphere, and I'm not anticipating that tonight. Mostly clear conditions through here, just a little bit of cloud cover from time to time. The big picture and why we're going into this pattern that's going to set up and set there really with us for a few days has to do with the jet stream. So if we look at those upper level winds, we do have this ridge that's building, and it's been just to the west of us, and it's sliding eastward, kind of pushing in our direction. That's going to move over top of us, a big ridge of high pressure. It's going to help us out in a few ways, and one of those has to do with what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico right now, which is Francine, Tropical Storm Francine, with the winds of 100 kilometers an hour. They're churning. And we're going to find this strengthening into a hurricane, at least Cat 1, if not possibly Cat 2, as it begins to make its landfall tomorrow there along the Gulf Coast towards Mississippi, Louisiana, through that region. All the heavy rains, flash flooding, a real concern. You've got a lot of low level terrain through there. So we'll be watching that for us. But how, let's bring this back, how that ridge of high pressure helps us out is any of that moisture, even trying to bring us some clouds over the next few days, is really going to have a hard time of it. So we get a lot of sunshine through the day, a few clouds kind of here and there, maybe some upper level smoke, and overnight temperatures tonight still a single digit for London, but those upper, you know, in the upper atmosphere, some of that warmth that builds in brings our overnight lows up over the next few days, is what I want to say, as well as our daytime highs. So Meg, how about that for forecast as we're moving through the month of September?
Yeah, that warm weather is not letting up, and I'm here for it. Thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
Remember the infamous Taco Bell bear from a few weeks ago? Well, the cub has since been returned up north with a new life and a new name. We have the update.
It's not generally a good idea to pick up a bear that's unconscious, put it in a van, and drive it to a long distance away. Even though it's a small cub, only 9 months old, if it was to come to and be obviously very terrified, it could create quite a bit of chaos inside the vehicle. Never feed an animal that could be potentially upsetting to the stomach, such as Taco Bell. His cognitive ability seems good. He's eating and drinking well. So he still walks as if he's a little sore, but he climbs, and I think he's definitely is near recovered. Once we're sure that he's regained his all his faculties, we'll sedate him, put some ear tags in him, and then he'll join a group of other bears. So this little bear will hibernate at Bears Us this winter. I've already made contact with the Cochrane District Ministry of Natural Resources staff, so they know that I have the cub. And he'll return to that district or that area next July or August. If everything works well in the natural way, the mother bear with her female cubs may stay connected, but the males don't. So he'll be a little loner and find his way in the wild and hopefully grow up to be a mature bear in the next 7-8 years. This is a North American black bear. They're a fairly common animal across most of North America and all of central and northern Ontario. It'll take him probably 10 years, maybe a little more, to reach his full physical size. If he doesn't get killed by people, either hunting or another way, he could live potentially well over 30. We named him Windsor for 2 reasons. Windsor City was involved in his trip to our facility. And secondly, it's a nice name anyway.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are going to duke it out tonight for their first face-to-face showdown. The debate begins tonight at 9. We have more details on that coming up. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris and Republican candidate Donald Trump will face off tonight in Philadelphia, each vying to sway voters in what polls suggest is a razor-tight race. Richard Madden has a preview of the U.S. presidential debate from Washington.
Final preparations are underway in Philadelphia ahead of tonight's historic debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Polls are suggesting a tightening race, so pressure is on both candidates to perform well and win. Now, Trump's advisors say he'll zero in on economic anxieties and link Harris to unpopular policies under the Biden administration.
He has to focus on what he has focused on primarily throughout the whole campaign trail, talking about bringing down inflation, talking about securing that southern border, and making sure that he holds Kamala's feet to the fire.
Harris advisors say she'll present a positive vision for the country, but expect Trump will launch personal attacks and an onslaught of lies.
Vice President Harris is going to articulate a forward-looking, inclusive agenda to make life better for everyday Americans and create a clear contrast to the chaos, dysfunction, and extremism that Donald Trump will visit upon the American people.
Now, this will be an especially crucial moment for Harris. She's enjoyed a wave of momentum since her ascendancy atop of the ticket last month, but many voters still don't know what she stands for, and Trump has been eagerly trying to define it for them, launching this new attack ad today in battleground states.
Why hasn't she done it?
This undecided voter is among the many who'll be listening to Harris very carefully.
This is her chance to get her message out, to get her personality out there, and really to find out what her policies are. She really hasn't, she spoke to the teleprompter the last 15 times I've saw her.
Now, tonight's debate begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and this will also be the first time these bitter rivals will meet in person. Whether they even shake hands at the start of the debate will likely set the tone for the rest of the evening. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
The former head of Canada's central bank was offering some economic advice to federal Liberals today. Mark Carney has been brought on board as an advisor as the party prepares for the upcoming session of Parliament and the next election. Some think there may be bigger things in store for Carney, but as CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian reports, the old Bank of Canada boss wasn't talking about that.
For months, Mark Carney has dodged questions about his future with the Liberals. On Tuesday, the former governor of the Banks of Canada and England kicked off his new gig as an economic advisor to the party.
It comes at, in my view, a decisive time for our economy, for our country. You know, the world is becoming a more dangerous and divided place, and at the same time, the global economy is being transformed.
But Carney was less forthcoming on speculation he's seeking the party's leadership or even a seat in the next federal election.
Prime Minister of Canada asked me to do something, I will do it. I will serve to the best of my ability. Secondly, you know, I'm interested. I have some experience in these issues, and I'm interested in helping our country to grow. I'm interested in doing something, not being something.
But votes are weighing heavily on most of the caucus at this retreat. In less than a week, voters in the LaSalle-Lamar-Verdun riding in Montreal will have a new MP, and the typically safe Liberal seat is tied up in a three-way by-election race with the NDP and the Bloc Québécois.
I'm convinced we will win. We know that cost of living is too expensive, that people are frustrated with it. So what do? We do everything to reduce the cost of things and services.
And there are questions about where the party is headed in the next federal election in about a year or sooner.
It's your brother?
The Liberals' national campaign director is here in Nanaimo, but he's quitting his job at the end of the month with no replacement announced. Trudeau himself did not speak to the media, leaving that to his deputy prime minister.
I think all of us have heard Canadians have a lot of frustrations. It is so important for us to hear the concerns of Canadians.
Hanging over this retreat, one key difference between the Liberals' marquee speaker today and its leadership. Mark Carney has previously publicly said it's time to move beyond the carbon tax, while the government continues to champion it. Cabinet did not address today what it would do if Carney starts advising them to scrap the levy. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Nanaimo, BC.
The first ever spacewalk conducted by private citizens is underway. SpaceX has launched 4 private astronauts into space for its Polaris Dawn mission today. We have the details coming up after the break. SpaceX has launched 4 private astronauts into space for its Polaris Dawn mission today. The multi-day journey could prove historic in more ways than one.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
If all goes to plan, it will include the first ever spacewalk conducted by private citizens. It's considered one of the riskiest parts of space missions and until now only undertaken by professional astronauts. The crew is set to travel 1,400 kilometers from Earth, the farthest since the NASA moon landings. The passengers include a billionaire, entrepreneur, a retired military pilot, and 2 SpaceX employees. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And if you plan to watch Kamala Harris and Donald Trump face off tonight, we have all the details on how to watch it on the CBC News website. Don't forget to watch the National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Explore. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.